Purple rain, purple rain. Necromancy's bad, it will drive you insane. But we have Elspeth von Draken. Thanks Sigmar for that, safeguarding the dead in the Gardens of Moor, and a new gameplay showcase for Nuln and Wesenland from Total War. Let's get it poppin', like Orville Redenbacher.
Elspeth's mysterious, powerful, and a bit creepy.
In this video, we'll be delving into Elspeth von Draken.
Deathly, reclusive, and the wielder of the dragon laser.
To explore who she is,
Lord.
her mechanics, and new units you can expect to see as part of the Thrones of Decay DLC.
That breath attack, by the way, absolutely goddamn insane. Like, really strong.
Her name echoes throughout the lands of the Empire, her story shrouded in mystery. Elspeth von Draken is of course our seemingly ageless personal protector of the Empire. Not that anyone believes her, of course. Her starting location lies in the heart of Wesenland and Nuln. We're jumping into turn 5 of our Immortal Empires campaign, where the severed rags of our homelands have been delicately sewn back together to somewhat resemble their former glory. We've no immediate threats around us, so we begin the delightful process of figuring out who to target next. The big patch of undead land in the east probably needs turfing over, so we'll begin an expedition over to Sylvania. It helps that Elspeth receives no attrition from vampiric corruption, of course, and they didn't see that coming.
For Sigmar and Verena.
Elspeth provides the
Okay, that's incredibly sick. One of my favorite things about Footlords is the animation sets. Tyrion has a bunch of sync kills that you never get to see on Malhandir. Malekith has a bunch that you never get to see on Seraphon. Elspeth, you're never gonna get to see those animations in game, and it's like, I don't know how to fix that issue because they put all this glorious effort into animations at one. You typically aren't gonna see unless you're watching Milk and Cookies Total War videos because you're not zooming in, and the only time we see them is in those cinematic battle replays. But like, I want to see that kind of stuff more often, but there's no reason to run the character on foot. The second you get the Carmine Dragon, you're gonna be on it for the rest of your campaign. And I mean, obviously in multiplayer, like, you're never gonna bring her without her mount. I don't know how to square that. I don't know how to fix that. All I can say is really it's just kind of a shame because those animations are sick. They add so much flavor to the battlefield.
fantasy of the kind of morally grey saviour of the Empire. Doesn't always do things the way that people might like, but she does get the job done.
The way Elspeth fits into the Empire roster is that she is a spellcaster character in the same way that Gelt is, but just has a different lore of magic. She also rides a Carmine Dragon, which is a monstrous mount, and not many spellcasters.
Okay, I will say, and I have mentioned this before, it's one of my only, oh, it's not one of my only criticisms, but it's one of the main criticisms from the visual side of the Empire roster. I just, if you're gonna do a mount for one of your 3 legendary lords, and it's a unique one, I feel like you should name it, and I feel like there should be something a little bit more unique than just the color scheme, right? Like, this is a Star Dragon, Sun Dragon, Moon Dragon type of mount. It's pretty much the exact same head, exact same rigging. I get it's a dragon, there's only so many things you can do with it. I'd like to see maybe like just a unique head on top of this. The breath weapon is unique. They did a fantastic job with it. It is extremely strong. It tracks insanely well on single targets, on units, everything. We'll see that in action very soon. But I just feel like something a little bit more spicy on the head to make it stand out a bit more. I was thinking like maybe like a Carnotaurus type of face, like short snout, more like a bulldog dinosaur. I don't know. Whatever you want to do, I just feel like the unique mount for one of your starting legendary lords should be a little bit more unique.
Casters in the Empire roster actually field them.
A quick look around our neighbourhood and we can see a few changes. For example, Helmgard now starts under the control of Karl Franz, giving him a little more breathing room to try out his new elect account updates.
Love that change.
And down
Great
south,
change.
Gelt seems to be missing. He now starts in Grand Cathay,
Amazing
fighting alongside
change.
Zhao Ming, with new updates to his campaign also. We've covered these changes in our Thrones of Decay blog posts, which you can find in the links below. For now, back to Elspeth. We've been utilising the Imperial Gunnery in the Imperial Gunnery.
Okay, so here's the Ickett's Workshop equivalent of the Empire. The Imperial Gunnery School, the seat of power, the foundational aspect of Wissenland, of Nuln, how they exert their influence over the Empire at large. It's one of the most important crown jewels of the entire Imperium of Man, and there are some crazy upgrades available in it. So if we take a look, there are going to be 4 separate categories. We showed this off last time. It's going to be basically foot troops with guns, mounted troops, outriders, pistoliers. Then we got mortars, cannons, Hellstorm rocket batteries, Hellblaster volley guns, steam tanks, and of course the new Marienburg landship. In the top left, there are 4 separate tiers that you can upgrade into. The Amethyst Armory will not unlock until Tier 3. We have Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4. And with each of those, you'll get progressively more powerful. The way you improve the entire school as a whole and the units within is by spending schematics. Those can be earned by playing battles and by completing challenges specific to each type of gunpowder category. So, for example, if you get a challenge that says 1,500 kills or 5,000 damage with great cannons, then that will unlock a specific elements of the tier, and once you've completed all the challenges in that tier, you will then progress to the next section. Some of these upgrades are bonkers. I mean, missile strength plus 10% for all infantry is already going to be good. That'll stack up with a lot of engineer and master engineer tech. Research, a bunch of things will be able to stack that up so you're not rocking with like 20 or 25 missile damage. It might end up more like 50 or 55 once you've stacked all those together. Then we got, exploding ammunition for gunnery infantry. And later in the video, as you'll see, someone must be a Soundgarden fan because they're dropping purple suns from Hellblaster volley guns and Hellstorm rocket batteries.
School window. And by applying our schematics we've collected after battles, we've been able to upgrade our units. There is a nice selection of upgrades across the munition units.
Some of these are not that impressive. Like, I don't really care about stock and snipe for my mortar units. I'm not going to let the AI dive my backline anyway, so that doesn't massively benefit me. Dazed contact effect, reducing speed and melee defense. Yeah, I mean, it sounds decent. Honestly, just the tier 1 upgrade is probably the best one you're going to get here. Like, more radius equals more damage. That might be the best upgrade in the mortar section, but then again, I don't really use mortars very often in campaign anyway. There are some absolutely bonkers stuff that we'll see as we go through.
But we're currently focusing on our artillery, because who doesn't love explosions? So far in Tier 1, we've added in additional projectiles to our Hellstorm rocket battery.
That's pretty spicy.
My personal favourite, improve the reaction time for the Hellblaster volley guns by removing the cannot run attribute, increasing their speed, and improving acceleration and deceleration through the Wayfarer ability. Not bad for a single upgrade. These are just our early upgrades as well, and as we utilise the gunnery school, we increase our tier, unlocking.
Yeah, so here's an example of some of these challenges that you have to complete to progress to the next tier. But yeah, right here, 1,000 enemies killed in battle with Amethyst units. Those will unlock at tier 3. Some of the Amethyst units have completely unique contact effects and fire different types of ammunition. Amethyst Ironsides, I believe we will see later in the video. What the unholy F is a Buna Bombard? That sounds amazing. Amethyst Ironsides are going to be one of those new Amethyst units. I believe there are like 4 or 5 separate unit categories that have their own model, and then unique contact effects and ammunition types that are, again, that combination of Shaiish, of death magic, suffusing known weaponry. It's a really cool combination. I believe we're going to get to see them a little bit later in the video, but like, we can see the model here. I don't think this is actually what the model is going to look like in the final product. I don't know if that was Games Workshop stepping in. There is some weird interplay there. I know that initially Nuln Ironsides and some other weapons were going to be like repeaters, and you can actually see it in this gameplay as well. They're basically, they have an animation that shows they'd be firing a repeater, right? Like, it keeps popping up and down and they're holding the gun out for a while, but they switched back to handguns, and I think that was because it was like a lore thing, but I don't know if that was Creative Assembly stepping in late and saying, oh, we want to be more lore friendly because that's what Nuln Ironsides rocked in the lore, or if that was Games Workshop going like, and this was pretty late on, saying like, yo, don't do this. This is bad. It's very strange. I don't know why that change happened, but there are going to be some little quirks like that that you'll notice as we go through the gameplay.
Further, more powerful upgrades and access to new units.
With Elspeth being in charge of Wissenland and Nuln, we knew that we had to have the Imperial Gunnery School in there. The mechanic kind of writes itself, an experimental weapons school and core to the Empire. It adds to the player experience by allowing you to push the limits of what your gun units could normally do. And it gets spicy at the end.
For Sigmar and Verina.
At this stage, our army is primarily made up of foot soldiers. Our Nuln Ironsides are the front line of our force. And with more advanced armor, melee capabilities, and missile strength than our standard Empire gunners, we'll bring them right in to weaken the enemy.
Look at what the hell is that? So bizarre to me. Like, you can see the gun recoil like 6 or 7 times, but they're firing a handgun. Hopefully that's not how it gets implemented in the final build. Again, I don't know if this was done on like short notice or what. I don't know if it was Games Workshop stepping in or just Creative Assembly making a change because they felt like they needed to. But that is so bizarre to me.
And with more advanced armor, melee capabilities, and missile strength than our standard Empire gunners, we'll bring them right in to weaken the enemy's front line, before bringing back in our swordsmen to take on the bulk of the melee.
Let's take a look at their stats. Okay, so 31 missile strength. Man, I just feel like they should have repeaters, right? Like, the whole point of creating a Nuln Ironside unit is to give it a little bit more differentiation. Now, I know you look at the Dwarf roster, for example, and they have Dwarf Warriors and then Longbeards, and there's functionally not really much difference between them in terms of how they fight in melee combat. Obviously, there's like ITP and little things like that. But I feel like if you're going to do an elite handgun regiment, it'd be kind of cool to give them a unique weapon to kind of differentiate them a bit more, and a repeater, frankly, does that. Handgun, yes, I understand they have Black Powder Discipline, which means they're going to get better reload skill and accuracy when they're standing still, but I just feel like a repeater adds more here than a handgun does, especially if we're going to be dealing with jank like this. And again, this is not a final build. They have plenty of time to change that before launch. I just don't know that they will, or, well, hell, I don't know if they actually do have a lot of time to change something like that. It seems like this was done on very short notice.
Strength and our standard Empire gunners,
not the biggest deal in the world,
bring them right
strange.
in to weaken the enemy's front line, before bringing back in our swordsmen to take on the bulk of the melee. We're in the midst of taking the walls. We'll position our ranged units on top of them to take advantage of the height. And I think we'll target our artillery on this section, to make things a little less bottlenecky. Vlad has joined the fray, and call me over the top, but while he's caught up, I'm just going to target all my artillery on him.
What? Alright, well that looked cool, so. Okay, that was actually awesome.
And let's mop up the stragglers using
Mortars
our
on a
Hoffman
single
long
entity.
rifle.
That's not how that works.
Kind of like fan favorite weapon from the.
Okay, so Hoffman long rifles are specialist sniper infantry. Looks like their missile strength isn't crazy impressive. What I understand though is that they are a tier 2 unit, and they function pretty much like Giselles. They're gonna have a smaller weapon team, only 32 models instead of like 60, 75, that sort of thing. 260 range is very much in like counter sniping, counter artillery type of unit. They can basically shoot enemy artillery, maybe not from max range, they'd have to move it a little bit closer, but this is gonna be a pretty useful unit, especially at tier 2. Insanely squishy. If they get tied down by dogs, by bats, they're probably just freaking dead. But get 2, 3, 4 of those, focus firing on a giant or chaos spawn or artillery, and it's not gonna last for very long. And they've got snipe, which is dope. They don't have stock though, which is kind of weird. Looking at this in the bottom left, yeah, it has the snipe icon, but not stock. Huh? So like they're visible when they're walking, but then invisible when they. Maybe that makes sense. Like you stand still and then like cover yourself in a ghillie suit or something. I don't know. Like blending into the environment is maybe the vibe they're going for. Or again, maybe that's just not final. I'm not sure.
The tabletop. They're long range, they're armor piercing, and they can really strike targets from a distance. Both the Ironsides and the Hochland long rifles sit either side of the handgunners in terms of where they sit on the roster. It's really you take what tool you need for the job to get the job done.
It's turn 20. Our armies are bespoke and our power is unquestioned.
What does that mean?
But our mantelpiece is empty and could do with some
They
trinkets.
love that word.
The Dark Lady of Nuln is a bit of an antiques collector. Magical arcane artifacts entrance her, as she yearns to understand the lore of death in its entirety. In her quest to complete her collection of artifacts though, she needs a quick way to travel. Gardens of Moor can be built in any friendly or neutral Empire-owned settlement, allowing us to create a network of pathways for Elspeth to transverse. We've set up a black tower near our capital of Nuln, so within a couple of turns, we can return to and assist our most important settlements without fear of travelling too far. Gardens can be used to construct unique buildings to provide extra settlement garrisons.
Okay, so this is a really cool mechanic. I don't know that it's going to be incredibly impactful in all of your campaigns, but it definitely has the potential to be. So essentially, you build a building in any Imperial territory, either neutral or friendly. Obviously, if you're at war with like Nordland, you couldn't build one of these in Nordland territory, but you essentially give them an extra garrison to help them defend their provinces. And then if you see enemy invasions coming in, Wulfric the Wanderer, Throg, Tamercan, you can basically teleport to that location from wherever you are within the Empire. So if you're in Nuln and you have your Garden of Moor there, I'm going to appear 4 provinces away in a place that would normally have taken me like 6 or 7 turns with forced march to get to. Suddenly, I'm going to be able to help defend and keep that Imperial authority rocking. Essentially keep the Empire intact and make sure that our Dominion is continuing to give us the buffs that we want to have. Remember, the more intact the Empire is, the better growth, the better boons, the better benefits you are going to have as Nuln or any of the Imperial sub-factions.
Extra settlement garrisons, unlock units, and boost your abilities in campaign and battle. Be sure to keep in mind the cooldown after constructing each garden. It's important to plan your pathways carefully.
We introduced the Gardens of Moor mechanic to really tap into the lore of Elspeth, of this mysterious woman that goes between Black Towers and her relationship with the Cult of Moor. From a gameplay side, it really helped her to zip around the Empire and protect them in dire straits.
Rather than rely on these gardens too much, let's make sure our homeland is well defended by utilising our master engine. Homeland is.
By the way, not to harp on it too much again, I'm not going to mention it again, I promise, but you can literally see the repeater handgun for the Nuln Ironsides right there. Why? Why was that changed? Why?
Rely on these gardens too much. Let's make sure our homeland is well defended by utilising our master engineer lord.
Compelled by good sense.
So hailing from the Engineers Guild, the Engineers are kind of these master craftsmen who specialise in creating all the weird and wonderful weapons that the Empire used to dispatch of their enemies.
It looks like, and it might just be a model thing, but I kind of doubt it, it looks like you're going to be able to switch up what type of weaponry you want to use. So maybe it's a part of his skill tree, and you go down either like the grenade launcher side or like the Hawkland sniper side. Maybe that's not a thing. Maybe switching weapons isn't going to be a thing. I will say I would have loved that. One element that I would have really loved to see, I think it'd be insanely cool to have a character who basically says, all right, I see swarms of infantry, bust out that grenade launcher, give them a thwack, blow them sky high. Oh, now I see a giant? Well, I need to take that thing out before it gets to my lines. Let me shoot it with my Hawkland long rifle. He's got all the weaponry there. I think it'd be absolutely sick if he could switch between them at a whim, obviously with some kind of cooldown or something, but any way to specialize or go down a specific part of a tree would also, I think, be a pretty interesting mechanic. So hopefully that ties into his gameplay in some capacity.
The difference between the Engineer and the Master Engineer is the Engineer is a hero and wields a repeater rifle, and he can use the ability Mercurial Shot from the Tamercan book. The Master Engineer wields a grenade-launching blunderbuss, and both units can also call down the fearsome pigeon bombardment.
Cuckoo Boom is the rallying cry of the Engineers, I believe. Alongside them, we have a new legendary hero.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh my god, show me that trot again, that cancer.
The Engineers, I believe. Alongside them, we have a new legendary hero.
Theodore Bruckner, known as the Titan Headsman, is this kind of champion of Nuln, the Justicar who kind of fights enemy characters. He is also the only character that is mounted on a demigryph.
New foot animations, awesome. Just not gonna get to see them very often because we're always gonna put them on Reaper. That is not what Reaper looks like, by the way. This must be this was probably recorded, or this element, this little cutscene was probably set up months ago. Reaper does look a lot cooler than that. That's just a generic demigryph. We've seen pictures of it already. I love the fact that he goes full armor, full regalia when he's on top of the demi, though. The helmet and the pauldrons, the wings, the whole vibe and aesthetic, probably one of, if not the coolest looking heroes in the game. I'm going to be interested to see how he plays, though. Some of those mechanics sound awesome, Baleflame Amulet being a big one. Essentially, in the lore, Tamercan and him are dueling at the gates of Nuln, and Theodore Bruckner wins the duel, basically kills the Karaka Break Mountain form for Tamercan, and then suddenly the worm inside the Ogre Tyrant bursts forth, buries itself in his neck or mouth, and like digs deep into his chest. And you're like, oh shit, like this guy's gonna die a horrible death. And he absolutely does, but Elspeth von Draken had gifted him this Baleflame Amulet, which activates, explodes as a magical artifact, chars both of them to cinder, ash, skeleton, dust, whatever. Everyone around them dies, and that's how Nuln essentially wins the battle. Tamercan's host flees back into the mountains. Really cool scene. I'm curious how something like the Baleflame Amulet is going to work, because even though it's a really cool mechanic, it does encourage you to, you know, have your hero die. And while that might work in multiplayer when most battles are going to be very close and come down to the wire, in campaign, you may not get very much use out of that, because again, you don't want your characters to be dying. Kind of the same thing with Feast of the Maggot Lord, honestly. It's cool, but you might not see it very often.
It's turn 40. Elspeth has vanquished Festus and his Fecundite faction. But our neighbours of Nuln grow irritable of our conquests.
Oh yeah, just a little... Oh, Dredge looks so sick there. Oh my god, I love that model. Oh, tree boobs! I will say, for the Feast of the Maggot Lord ability, you guys saw the replay that I did yesterday, Tamercan versus Krotgar and the Scar Veteran Carnosaur combo. I do think... Again, I don't know where it's going to shake out in terms of balance with the Feast of the Maggot Lord and being able to snipe single entities when Tamercan is close to death. I will say, if nothing else, 100-meter radius on that ability is kind of silly. It doesn't make sense. It should be a dueling ability, 10 to 20 meters max. 20 or 25 is probably the max I'd go there, and even that might be a little bit far. I would say the only time that should be proccing and getting close to killing lords, and again, it's supposed to replicate the idea of the worm bursting forth and killing the other hero that killed its Tamercan's old form, then he takes the new form. I will say, I think that should be a dueling only ability, which means you have to be really close. 10, 15 meters, that's the only time it should activate. It shouldn't be like Uncle Rico killing something over them hills with sick-ass snipes from like on high. That doesn't make sense. 100 meters away, worm's not going to chase you, not going to catch you. Doesn't make any sense. It should apply like that. You got to be close for that to activate and deal damage to a lord or hero.
The Wargroves of Woe have turned our forests against us. It may be because we discovered the Nemesis Crown.
Okay, the Nemesis Crown. Other people have already done breakdowns of this, so I'm not going to go too in-depth here, but the idea behind it is that it is a army-wide buff, and it's similar to the Sword of Cain. Essentially, the longer you have it, and the more battles you win with it, the stronger it will become. It starts out as a fledgling crown, kind of minor buffs, but they get relatively insane. The downside being, of course, that upkeep and diplomatic relations, malices, become much more problematic as this thing levels up. So yeah, your army becomes insanely powerful, but it will lose power, or you'll lose it entirely. I don't remember which. If you aren't winning battles constantly, you've got like maybe like a 5-turn timer in between whether something bad happens to the crown or not. And then of course at any point you can seal it away and get some money for it. But there are going to be certain factions that benefit from this way more. If you're Torox the Brass Bull, or Kolek, or Archaon, any of those horde factions that maybe don't really care about diplomatic malices and don't care about public order to the same extent, you're going to get a lot more benefit out of it than, say, like, the High Elves. It is going to be an absolutely bananas in pajamas combo for someone like Torox, who gets the Widowmaker from Ulthuan, and then the Nemesis Crown. The one-man Doomstack ability, crazy. Like, some of the buffs that you get, and maybe they'll show it here, are disgusting.
Crown, and after taking it for ourselves, gain diplomatic penalties for all factions nationwide. Whoops. Elspeth can't help herself.
Yeah, for
Much
the
to
Empire,
Elspeth's
I'm not
joy,
sure you're going to want
the
to use
Nemesis
it all
Crown is a free update in patch 5.0. Within our Imperial Gunnery School, though...
Oh yeah, I forgot. You also get like this insane Mortis engine that just, I think it's like 60 DPS or something in an AoE. So if you're surrounded by like 4 or 5 units, you're literally just nuking them all into oblivion in really short order. And then, yeah, you combine that with vortexes from the Sword of Cain, the Widowmaker.
We've reached Tier 3, unlocking the Amethyst panel. We can now purchase, recruit, and upgrade Amethyst units, taking advantage of their magically augmented
Purple rain, black hole sun, won't you come wash away the pain? These are the Amethyst units in the Amethyst Armory unlocked at Tier 3, and we'll try to go through real quick and like see what the upgrades are, because pretty curious about these. These are for the Outriders, so you get Stalk, Unspottable, Stalk and Unspottable especially. That is, I'd actually say that's more like of an Ulgu thing. That's not really, I wouldn't really consider that Shaiish. Like kind of disguising yourself and hiding yourself. I feel like that is more Lore of Shadows. Anyway, interesting. Pretty useful, especially if it prevents you from getting shot back, which it should. Dread Knight causes terror. Not gonna be in melee too often, so I don't know about that. +5 leadership is a little bit boring as well. Remember, these are just upgrades though. This isn't like the modifiers that change what it is. It looks like for the Amethyst Outrider, you get some kind of Shaiish infused grenade launcher. So I would imagine whatever they're firing does quite a bit more damage than regular Outriders. And regular Outriders with grenade launchers already got a pretty big buff in this update. They deal insane damage to infantry. So very curious to see how that plays out. This is super good. +30% explosion radius. You're firing into densely packed infantry. I imagine the carnage they unleash there would be quite gross. And maybe they have really good melee stats. It looks like they are more heavily armored, and then they're going for some like more unique kind of melee focused upgrades for them. So maybe they are the kind of unit that will be engaging in melee that more function like Empire Knights or something like that with a grenade launcher. But I guess we'll have to see. I haven't seen their stats yet. Murderous Charge is definitely a weird upgrade for a unit like this
taking advantage of...
Now when we look at the Amethyst Ironsides, again, this model is different than the one you see a little bit earlier in the video. At least the unit card is different. They don't have the same like fully enclosed helmet. It looks like, it's not Knights of the Blazing Sun, but maybe like Knights of the Everlasting Light or whatever the hell. They look slightly different. I think this is going to be like the final version of this build. You got melee attack and melee defense for them. Armor, missile resist, Soul Blight attacks. That's really cool. Essentially apply an entire Soul Blight. It won't be AoE, but pretty much any unit you hit will be hit by that debuff. Reduce damage and armor, and then Iron Resolve, which might be more armor piercing. It looks like the Deadly Onslaught ability, but maybe it's slightly different.
their magically augmented munitions. Amethyst artillery is also available to us now, turning the tide.
There we go. All right, Buna Bombard. God, that's so cool. I cannot wait to use this. I haven't played with it yet, but some of these ideas are absolutely awesome. Okay, ranged damage, explosive damage. Yeah, it's just gonna be like a big bombardment ability with a lot of armor piercing, hefty dosage of that. Interesting.
Dreich's invasion. Better get collecting those schematics.
It will rain death.
Purple Rain.
The Amethyst Armory bring that combined focus of guns and magic, which you don't normally see within the Empire, and they are very potent, especially with all the combined bonuses you can get for the Amethyst units and the regular counterparts.
Oh my god! Black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Dude, I don't care that you guys don't like my singing. I like to sing. That's why I do it. It's fun. I enjoy it. I'm terrible at it. Actually, I've been called the songbird of my generation, so... Dude, that is so sick. What? They fire Purple Sun of Xerius. I don't know if that's going to be like a full strength one, but even if it's like mini Purple Suns, that's actually disgusting. I mean, like, crazy OP, but again, it's going to be like a late upgrade in the Nuln school. And I assume there's going to be caps on the Hellstorm Rocket Battery Amethyst upgrades anyway. You can't field like a bunch of them. That's the coolest thing I've seen maybe in any of the campaign showcases so far.
Some of the later additions include dropping a giant purple sun.
The Nemesis
Lord.
crown sits heavy upon Elspeth. As we dominate, we make more and more.
Yeah, so as that continues to get more and more corrupting, we're seeing those malices increase. Now we're getting plus 10% upkeep. I think that goes up to like plus 30 or plus 40% upkeep for the entire army, which can be painful. But again, you can kind of play around that. Like there's certain unit archetypes and certain like one-man doomstack type of things where that won't really be a big deal. And of course, for some factions, you're just not going to care anyway about most of these. The big other debuff that hasn't been applied to her quite yet, but will really start kicking in, is casualty replenishment rate. And I believe that also goes up to like 30 or 40% casualty replenishment rate reduction. So that is kind of the limiting factor for some of these builds. But again, if you're rocking single entities or the kind of doom stack that doesn't really care about casualty replenishment, where you don't have regiments of infantry or cavalry, and instead are working with like single entity monsters that you can heal in game, then casualty replenishment doesn't really matter to you.
But the temptation for Elspeth is too much. So while we have the option to drop it off at the nearest thrift store, I think we'll keep it.
I protect the Empire.
We're winning the war. But Drycha has made a bold move for her swan song, stepping forth into our lands to attack our capital of Nuln. We can't travel to a besieged settlement using the Gardens of Moor, but Grunberg? That ain't too far away.
Betwixt the veil.
Right, I can't handle an army of 40 units, so Elspeth's backup is going to come in as and when she's needed.
That's fair.
Ready for war!
Our garrison can hold off the first wave of Wood Elves, but looks like Drycha's on her way with her main army.
Coettle's here! Oh, I love that music. Ooh! Chills, dog!
Elspeth arrives atop her Carmine Dragon. Let's boost that morale.
Add that music to the game!
Doom, take this!
Let me take a look at that purple sun real quick. Okay, so that's 16 wins of magic for her. I won't talk about that yet.
Doom, take this!
She makes purple suns better.
As we lose units of our garrison, it frees up space for more of Elspeth's more qualified soldiers to arrive as backup.
Oh, those amethysts. Non Ironsides look so
Oh, wait, those are my cannons. Oh, well. My Knights of the Black Rose will avenge them.
The Knights of the Black Rose are this sword and board cavalry that really excel in sustained engagements.
One of, if not the best looking knight units in the entire trilogy. They actually look sick. Really interesting stat line too. High melee defense, very high armor of 120, and that bonus versus infantry weapon strength, kind of middling to lowish charge bonus. So again, with the ITP, this unit is designed to stick and fight in a melee grind rather than cyclocharging you like most other cavalry units in the game. I like that. This is what I've been looking forward to for quite some time on the knightly order side. There's a ton of variety in the lore when it comes to knightly orders that we don't quite have yet. I mean, Knights Panther, Tunic Guard are two other examples that I think will maybe come with Cult of Ulrich when and if they do. But the idea of a melee cav unit that's designed to stick and fight and sustain, like Katana Cavalry in Shogun 2, which is one of my favorite units from back in the day, I think that's a really cool archetype. And I don't know what their bonus versus infantry is, but especially in a defensive siege scenario like this one, I don't play very many defensive sieges, which is unfortunate. The AI, whether I'm playing on hard, very hard, legendary, what have you, they don't seem to like to attack walled settlements very often, in my experience. So I don't get to play defensive siege battles. But if you are in this kind of siege scenario, and even on the attack, having a melee cavalry unit probably going to be more useful than having lance cav, because you can, just throw them into melee and not have to worry about retreating and getting mucked up in the city streets and in those choke points and stuff.
Oh dear, they're really making their way in. Plus, they found some of my undefended gates. Time to call in the artillery.
So awesome, man.
The steam tank, now mounted with a volley gun in the hull, is this twist on a really beloved existing unit.
That model looks gorgeous, dude.
Ah, here comes our navy. Hang on, there's no sea here.
The wonder of an age!
And finally, we have the Marienburg-class landship, which is this ridiculous boat on wheels with an extreme amount of firepower.
Theodore, mate, I know you're on your last legs, but I need you back in the fight. Okay,
Man, this fight's a
he's going.
struggle, man. It's
But his
getting
Bale
beat
Flame
to
Amulet
hell.
has other ideas.
Wow, okay, so that's not what I was expecting from that. So what I thought would happen would be this like huge explosion that deals all that damage like in a burst sense. It looks like it leaves a puddle of fire on the ground, and if units stand in that fire, their HP bar just melts, which is pretty cool. I think the downside to that might be that if you're highly mobile, you'll be able to escape from the fire and really not take very much damage, whereas if it was like a burst explosion, you'd get hit no matter what. So I'll have to see how that actually interacts with health bars. But that's an interesting mechanic. Again, typically don't want to let Theodore Bruckner die. But in this situation, obviously they're doing it for like cinematic purposes. And maybe they're playing it up a bit. Really cool though. I like that idea. I don't know if there's any DOT I can think of in the game that damages over time, like while you're standing on a certain surface, like in that purple flame. Pretty cool. We saw the landship as well. I don't really need to go into the stats there. You'll be seeing a replay of it very soon. And it's exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's this mobile fortress that blows stuff up with a Hawkland sniper up top, bunch of repeater handguns and stuff on the side, and that culverin on the prow. So it can shoot you from long range, it can shoot you up close, it can run you over with that full power buff. Pretty cool unit.
Come on, men. Final push. In we go. Nope. Oh, okay then. Elspeth, it's up to you.
Everyone you know and love around you is dying!
The Empire flourishes. We've confederated some of our allies.
I don't know if you guys remember it, but like 2 or 3... no, this might have been like 4 years ago. Maybe even a little bit more than that. I did a Mixu battle between Elspeth von Draken and Drycha Briar Maven of Woe before either one of them were officially in the game. And that was a really cool battle. Very thematic. Outside the Gates of Altdorf, I think, was the battle map we played for that one. And it's kind of cool to see that brought to life here in official campaign capacity. I seriously doubt they watched that video to come up with that idea. They start relatively close to each other in the campaign, but cool to see that kind of brought to life in an official sense. And yeah, I mean, both those models look amazing.
Into our faction, increasing our new Imperial authority, and we've created a vast network of gardens across the rest. Completing Tier 5 of the Gunnery School means we've unlocked the Amethyst
Catacomb, Cannonball, Ammunition, AP, and Homing. Wow. Doom and Darkness Bound Spell, Spirit Leech, and Cremation Engine. I don't know what that is. That sounds... violence? I don't know. That's kind of dark. Basically like following up behind the rest of the units and whatever bodies they find on the battlefield. They're just like, alright, into the engine you go. Get cremated, bitches.
School means we've unlocked the Amethyst Landship and the Purple Eclipse.
Oh, Lord.
Both will be powerful additions to our armies, once we find a new target to use them on. On the horizon, we see a new threat in the form of Tamarkin, and perhaps yet, we'll find an ally in the dwarves.
I wonder how
Should
often
probably
he'll...
drop off the crown if we want to make friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.
I wonder how often Tamarkin will actually make it to the Empire in your campaign when he's AI. He's starting in Zanbai Jin. That's really far away. I wonder if his AI is like programmed to actually head towards Nuln. It'd be kind of interesting if they just did like a quest battle that even if the AI faction gets destroyed, that you still get to play an important battle against him in the late game, just for like thematic sake. But maybe it's better that it's just like kind of a sandbox. I don't know. That's kind of up in the air. I personally like the really themed quest battles that nod back to the lore, and it will be pretty hard to program Tamarkan's AI to always be strong enough to make it to the Empire. Maybe it's a good thing that it doesn't always play out that way. Quest battle could help mitigate that issue to an extent, but I think some people would probably prefer it just remain sandbox and whatever happens, happens, which makes sense to me.
On the new editions. And don't forget to follow our links to find out more, including the extra campaign reworks we've added for Empire, Nurgle, and Dwarves as part of patch 5.0. Check out our Steam page to wishlist it now.
This update looks great, man. It really does. That Nuln campaign is popping. There's a lot to do there. Obviously, Ickett's Workshop is very strong. I think a lot of people consider Ickett, at least previously, to be one of, if not the easiest campaigns in the game. I don't know that that's going to be true for the Empire. I think that you're under so much pressure and under so much threat, even though you are kind of tucked away in that safe southwest corner where you maybe don't have to deal with as much Norskins, as much Chaos forces and all that. You're going to have your own threats to deal with. Vlad pushing in from the east and probably killing off a lot of AI sub-factions pretty quickly means you have to take out Sylvania and occupy that territory. Then, of course, Drycha. And then once you've hit that, you're going to be on the doorstep of Chaos anyway, because I don't know that Kislev is going to last all that long. Most of the time in my campaigns, there may be around to like turn 60, 75, 80. But like Kastalton, I've seen him die like turn 40 multiple times. Katerin could do the same. So you're going to be dealing with those kind of threats anyway. And then, of course, if you're building the Gardens of War and teleporting to the front lines, you'll be fighting them a lot anyway. So again, I don't think she's going to be quite as easy, but there is some really powerful stuff in that Nuln Gunnery School that should trivialize some of the battles. It'll be really fun. I don't know how balanced it'll be, but she's looking like she's going to be an absolute blast, and I'm pretty happy with how CA have set this up so far. I would have never expected to see this combination of Shaiish suffusing Nuln weaponry in this capacity. It looks like it's going to be a deadly combination. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Lots of replays coming very soon.